Good morning. For those who don't know me, I am Greg Brusso. I'm the chair for the Diversity Commission, City Federal Way. So Mayor Farrell, Deputy Mayor Honda, City Council, Superintendent Tammy Campbell, and other distinguished guests, welcome to the 2020 Martin Luther King celebration here at the PAC. Thank you for taking the time to come today. I know it's important for all of us. As in previous years, today is a culmination of the celebration of Dr. King. In the past years, the Diversity Commission has always partnered with the school, mainly the high schools, our local high schools. We rotate every year. This year it came to Thomas Jefferson High School. So the program that you see, that you're holding in your hands, developed by them. And so I'm sure that when we're done with today, go home and you see that it's a very big honor that these folks did this today. This weekend began with inspiring the school assembly at Thomas Jefferson High School. It continued with the food drive on Saturday that we always have. Then it ends up here today at the PAC. The hard work that you see that in the program was done by the BSU students. I'd like to thank them for honoring Dr. King. Also, I'd like to thank Safeway and Fred Meyer for hosting us for our food drive again this year. If you give them a hand. Even though we had less stores this year participating, we still, Mayor, I think he's in the background, but we raised or collected over 4,000 pounds of non-perishable food for the senior center. So give yourselves a hand for that. I'd also like to thank Chris Brown. He's one of our ex-commissioners on the Diversity Commission. He helps out every year by putting the cans out, and there's some cans out front. So if anyone wants to come, you can make the phone call and say, hey, come to the MLK event. You can bring some cans still and donate for the senior center. So in a short time, I'm going to introduce both the commission and the BSU students from TJ. They put in a lot of hard work to bring this to you, and like I said, hopefully it will be a memorial event today. Dr. King would have been 91 years old. Although Dr. King was taken from us much too early, his influence and teachings live on with us every day. After seeing today's program, I believe that you'll find my statement to be true. Just look at the theme you have in front of you, regeneration. Now, what do you ask is regeneration? I'm going to have the students come out. When they come out, they'll explain that to you. But once you see what they say and what you listen to, what that tree is all about, you'll get the point. So with that, I'd like to bring out my diversity commissioners. Starting from left to right, Ali Hashidati. Janice Rogers, Larissa Lincoln, Nichelle Curtis McQueen, and Julian Franco. So I would like to bring the BSU students from TJ out, please.
Hello everyone, I'm Gianni White and I am the Vice President of the Thomas Jefferson High School BSU. Here we have our President, Zari Warden, our advisor, Mr. Springfield, and three of our members, Amy Ojabaru, Santorini Sneed, and Geneva Jones.
Thank you. So today you will hear speakers or watch performers that carry on the legacy of Dr. King's life. Take the time to really listen to the speakers. Take the time to watch performers. Take to heart what you hear today. Although we are here today, there are many that aren't, and some don't plan to be here or want to come here. They don't understand what Dr. King represents. We have much work to accomplish to change his mindset. I conclude the story with a story of why I say this. So I was at the store on Saturday. I had the opportunity to help out, because usually I drive around and make sure the stores are up. But I took the time this time to go to one of the stores. As I handed out a leaflet, the gentleman walked in I said, "Sir, we're doing a food drive today to benefit the senior center." He kind of glanced past me, and as he walked, I couldn't finish my sentence. He said to me, "I don't want to have anything to do with that guy." So it took me a while to figure out what he was talking about. So I turned around, and the collection can was in back of me. And on the collection can was the flyers we put out with Dr. King's image on it. So I say that because we here today are here, but when you go home today, it is up to us. It is up to all of us to carry on the legacy of Dr. King. It's needed, even though it's still, the year is 2020, even more. So with that, I will turn this over to the BSU, and thank you for coming.
Good morning, everyone. We are here to celebrate the life of Dr. King and keep his dream alive.
As a group whose focus has always been betterment, service, and unity, we've decided that this year's theme will be regeneration.
Now you may be wondering, what is regeneration? Regeneration is where we take the strategies of people from the civil rights movement, how they spread their message in order to receive rights, and use those strategies today through our own messages and voice.
Many people are dissatisfied with certain events that occur within our country and all over the world. However, they do not want to take the initiative to do anything about it. Therefore, the theme of regeneration will show people how they can help rather than sitting back.
In addition to this, Martin Luther King Jr. was all about equality for everyone. So we can regenerate the thoughts of MLK solely being about Black people to being about everyone as well. We can come together as a community to work together rather than fight the fight alone.
With that said, we hope you enjoy this event and our message. We invite you to stand for the national anthem. All others, please remain a respectful silence. After the national anthem, please remain standing for the Black national anthem, lift every voice, and sing. Both anthems will be sung by Thomas Jefferson High School's choir. National anthem first.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won.
Thank you, choir. Up next, we will have Mayor Farrell with a few words about the event and the people that make the Federal Way the community that it is.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'd like to first take a few moments to say hello and thank you to my colleagues. We've got Deputy Mayor Honda here. Let's give her a big round of applause. Councilmember Mark Kopang. Thank you, Mark. Returning council member Linda Kochmar. And Lydia Asefadasan. And Councilmember Martin Moore could not make it today. He's with his sick parents. They both have health issues. And he texted me first thing this morning about 5 o'clock in the morning and just say, make sure everybody knows that I really wanted to be there and I just could not be there. Let's see here. Oh, we've got Council Board President Jeff McAnally. Thank you, Jeffrey, for being here. And Director Phillips as well, Lakeisha Phillips. Thank you for being here. And our illustrious Dr. Campbell, Dr. Tammy Campbell, our superintendent. I'd also like to thank the BSU, the Black Students Union of Thomas Jefferson High School. They do such a superb job, and we were, several of the council members and I were present along with the Diversity Commission members at Thomas Jefferson High School, and they just did a phenomenal job, and it was great to see the program that they put on, and we're really looking forward to it today. I'd like to thank the Diversity Commission for all they do. They work so hard, and it really is one of the great organizations in our community. You know, I was thinking a great deal about what to say today, and I remember Roger Freeman and his commitment to making sure that these events continue. I cannot begin to tell you how many events over the years I've been to, and the banners that they used to hold and the various locations they were in. There's so many people in our community that helped make these events occur every year, and it's a great celebration, and I'm honored to be here, as I know my colleagues are as well. In thinking about this, I was thinking about the speech in 1963 that we're all so familiar with. And while it was a snapshot, a moment in time, and certainly a mountaintop moment, it certainly, as you all know, was not the end of the story. Dr. Martin Luther King's famous I Have a Dream speech was delivered before, and this is hard to imagine, 250,000 people. And frankly, the world. In 1963, in his march in Washington, D.C. It remains one of the most memorable speeches, not only of his career, but frankly, of our nation. It's one of the signature moments of the civil rights issue, and as President Obama says, the long arc of history bends toward justice and equality. It eventually helped secure the passage of the landmark Civil Rights Act of 1964, and also the year later, the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Dr. King was, as we all know now, a rising star. He was Time Magazine's Man of the Year in 1963, and the following year was awarded the prestigious Nobel Peace Prize. But even with that headway that he was making on a nationwide and worldwide basis for the civil rights movement, there were still riots going on in the country. And as we know now, those were actually accelerating. 1965, 66, 67, the country was burning. Dr. King knew he needed to push on. In 1967, he started a national movement called the Poor People's Campaign. aimed at shining a light on economic and social injustice. The Poor People's Campaign would prove that nonviolent confrontation still offered the only effective way to achieve real, sweeping social change. But there were differences in the civil rights movement, and he had to contend with that. And there were different voices. Very frankly, King said at the time, this was a search for an alternative to riots. King delivered "I've been to the mountaintop" speech in support of the striking sanitation workers at Mason Temple in Memphis, Tennessee on April 3rd, 1968, the night before he was assassinated. A crowd of about 10,000 people was expected to show up to hear Dr. King to speak, but instead, 15,000 souls showed up. Dr. King, when he finally got there, could barely make his way, he and his entourage could barely make his way in to that temple. They had to figure out a strategy to squeeze themselves into this overflowing room, to the swelling, pulsating crowd that was there to see magic happen. You see, Dr. King actually that night spoke extemporaneously for over 40 minutes. And we call it the mountaintop speech, but he spoke from the heart. That night in Memphis, there was a raging thunderstorm outside the temple. Newspapers at the time reported that each time the storm shook the temple and something banged or made a noise, Dr. King flinched. During his 43-minute speech, he delivered the remarks without notes, speaking of a choice between nonviolence and non-existence. He spoke of poverty as an issue of urgency, yet also pleaded for unity. He asked those assembled to stand with a greater determination. He said, quote, "And let us move on in these powerful days, these days of challenge, to make America what it ought to be. We have an opportunity to make America a better nation," King said. In closing, Dr. King famously said, quote, "I just want to do God's will, and he's allowed me to go to the mountaintop. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not be able to get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land." Those were Dr. King's last public utterances. The following day, Dr. King was fatally shot, as we all know, at the Lorraine Hotel in Memphis, Tennessee. Now today, the theme is regeneration. The definition of regeneration is to effect a complete moral reform. Dr. King was in the midst of a regeneration. With riots still playing out in our cities across the U.S., he wanted to take nonviolent protest to the next level. True pacifism, or nonviolent resistance, Dr. King wrote, is a courageous confrontation of evil by the power of love. He had plans for a nonviolent resistance to dislocate the functioning of a city without destroying it. He was planning that disruption to occur in the very same place where he delivered his "I Have a Dream" speech just 5 years before in Washington, D.C. He never got there. He did not live to see it, just as he predicted in Memphis that stormy night. But his regeneration, as you will hear about in today's program, is alive and well in today's youth. Thank you for coming today, and we hope you enjoy the rest of the program. Thank you.
"2019 was a horrible year. I can't even imagine what 2020 is going to be like."
Great way to be optimistic.
Why do you think 2020 is going to be a bad year?
Well, there's so much going on in the world. Inequality is everywhere. People are being killed left and right. Economic opportunities are decreasing, and the world is slowly dying. Literally, global warming.
Okay, so those are big problems, but we can still fix them. There's time.
But is there really time? Like I said, global warming.
How about instead of complaining about it, we do something about it?
And what are we supposed to do?
Yeah, smart one. You got ideas?
I don't know. We can do something, though.
Okay, well, come back to us when you have something we can actually do.
Well, MLK Day is today. He stood up for what he believed in, so we should do that too.
You're right.
Sure, Martin Luther King Jr. did things to help his people and the country, but that doesn't give us anything to do physically right now. And he can't help us either. He's kind of, gone.
We can take inspiration from him, though. Santorini, do you know what time period MLK helped change the laws of segregation in?
The time of the Civil Rights Movement, right?
Yep, so we can find people who are a part of that movement, and we can draw ideas from what they did and to stop the poor conditions they were living in.
We have to do research.
Well, Gianni, at least we have the internet. They didn't have that during the Civil Rights Movement. Let's put our pretend research caps on.
You cannot be serious.
We are going to look for people in the Civil Rights Movement who helped Dr. King in following his dream. Gianni, let's go to Google. We are going to look for people in the Civil Rights Movement who helped Dr. King.
Geneva, do these people even know about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the Civil Rights Movement?
I mean, this shouldn't be their first time. Let's give them a short recap video, though.
Sounds like a good idea. I'll pull something up. Everyone return their attention to the screen.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed.
Martin Luther King Jr. was a minister and leading activist during the 20th century civil rights movement. He was born Michael Luther King Jr. on January 15, 1929 in Atlanta, and later changed his name to Martin. King grew up steeped in religion and activism. His father was a reverend at Ebenezer Baptist Church and a local NAACP leader. A talented student, King skipped 2 grades in high school and entered Morehouse College at age 15. King was skeptical about Christianity as a boy, but later embraced his faith and entered the seminary. While earning a doctorate at Boston University, King met aspiring singer Coretta Scott. They married in 1953 and had 4 children: Yolanda, Martin Luther III, Dexter Scott, and Bernice. King established himself as a rising star in the civil rights movement. After Rosa Parks' arrest in Alabama in December 1955 for refusing to give up her seat to a white passenger, the NAACP chose King to lead the Montgomery bus boycotts. The protests ultimately led to a U.S. Supreme Court decision which outlawed segregation on public buses in Alabama. With civil rights demonstrations emerging all over the country, King helped organize the Southern Christian Leadership Conference to unite them. Inspired by Mahatma Gandhi, King advocated nonviolent protests like boycotts and sit-ins. King's most famous triumph came at the 1963 March on Washington, which brought over 200,000 peaceful protesters to the nation's capital. On the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, King delivered his iconic "I Have a Dream" speech. King put his life on the line for many of his protests. A 1965 march for voting rights in Selma, Alabama, turned violent when police viciously attacked the protesters in a conflict dubbed Bloody Sunday. Ever determined, King led another Selma demonstration 2 days later. When the marchers reached a bridge blocked by state troopers, they simply knelt down in prayer. King and other leaders persisted, launching a third march days later under the protection of the Alabama National Guard and other marshals ordered by President Lyndon B. Johnson. The power of King's activism compelled Johnson to sign the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. King also won the 1964 Nobel Peace Prize. As the Vietnam War intensified, King focused his movement on what he saw as the 3 major evils of racism, poverty, and militarism. By 1968, King had made many enemies and recognized he might not live to see the fruits of his labor. He shared this sentiment in his speech entitled, "I Have Been to the Mountaintop." The next day, April 4th, King was fatally shot on the balcony of a Tennessee motel by James Earl Ray. King's assassination, however, could not erase his progress or his legacy. His family and followers continued to fight for equality to this day. Since 1986, the United States has honored him every January on Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
That video seemed a little longer than a short recap.
Can you not complain about something for once in your life?
Guys, calm down. That video actually gave me some inspiration for the research we're going to do.
He really focused on peaceful protests. The only violence that happened was when others tried to stop the protest.
Peace is a good choice.
It's a logical choice.
You know, Martin Luther King Jr. is like the roots of a tree.
What?
You know, he really helped people start taking action in the civil rights movement, just like the roots are the foundation of a tree.
That's true. MLK was a courageous and transformational man during the American civil rights movement. He created change by empowering the next generation of activists to continue what he started before his death.
And we're the next generation.
Yeah, enough tree talk. Now let's start this research. What was one of the groups that helped with these peaceful protests?
Let's Google what groups helped in the civil rights movement.
Who's the NAACP?
Well, let's read about it.
The NAACP stands for the National Association of the Advancement of Colored People. It is the oldest and largest living civil rights organization as it was founded in 1909 in New York City by both black and white activists. They started off because of an incident in 1908 located in Springfield, Illinois, where a riot started. 2 black men were arrested for alleged crimes, and the people wanted to stand up for the wrongs that were being seen.
Along with wanting to prevent unjustified allegations, they also had an anti-lynching campaign, which was a huge issue in the early to mid 20th century.
The group's founders include Mary White Ovington, William English Walling, and many others.
The NAACP is still continuing today. According to their page, their purpose is to ensure the political, educational, social, and economic equality of rights of all persons and to eliminate race-based discrimination.
Wow, that's amazing. The fact that situations in the 20th century inspired the group even before MLK was born, and that they're continuing to do work for the civil rights movement is great.
It's actually really nice to see, but can we even achieve the level that the NAACP has?
Like I said earlier, Gianni, be optimistic.
Your comment from earlier is clearly not working.
I know what might work.
What?
The first performance of the event. It will definitely heighten your expectations and inspire you. Please welcome Michelle, who will be introducing the performance.
Thank you for coming today. It is my pleasure to present our first performance of the night, Happy Dance Studio.
What a great performance. Thank you, happy dancers.
They really did show us that step and dance are a way to express yourself in a positive, impactful way.
I actually really did like their performance a lot.
You liked something?
Okay, don't get too excited. But I did. That's one way we can get our word across, through demonstrations just like that.
Very true.
And there's a couple of other groups that can continue to help us figure out how to keep the message going.
Is everyone ready to go on researching?
I guess so.
I sure think so.
Awesome. Let's see other people who proceeded with MLK's dream.
Ooh, look, there's a national chapter of Negro women. That's super cool.
I don't know anything about these women's groups.
Well, we'll find out.
The National Chapter of Negro Women, or the NCNW, is a nonprofit organization that started on December 5th, 1953. Founded by Mary McLeod, the group was created to help African American women, families, communities, and their quality of life.
McLeod wanted to encourage Negro women to participate in civics, politics, economics, and education. The chapter's mission today is to have African American women fight to have political and economic success through research and advocacy.
Well, that's quite neat.
And that's what I like to call woman empowerment.
There is also an NCNW chapter located in Seattle. We can go check it out sometime.
Speaking of advocacy, I know a girl who loves songwriting and made a song about working together and making change. With the original song, Carry On the Dream, please welcome Zari Warden.
I'm afraid to go outside every day because of tragic events happening elsewhere. And people say humanity needs to change. They claim to feel distress, pain, and despair, but they continue to sit down and let others fight the fight. If we all assist, the more we persist, it'll be a sight of signs. I see the dream, the one MLK had years ago. If we work in harmony, our betterment, service, unity will grow. Let us stand up tall. I don't wanna fall like so many had to face. Where I wanna be is a continuation of the dream. I don't want to live in a world with nothing but sorrow. I want to live with hope and positivity. I want to see a brighter tomorrow, filled with wonder and opportunity. So let's not sit down, and we can join the fight of fights. We can all assist if we all persist on it'll be a sight of sights. I see the dream, the one MLK had years ago. If we work in harmony, our betterment, service, unity will grow. Let us stand up tall. I don't wanna fall like so many had to face. Where I wanna be is a continuation of the dream, the dream, the dream, the dream. I see the dream, I can see it, I can see it. I see the dream that was carrying on to where it should be. I see the dream, the one MLK had years ago. If we work in harmony, our betterment, service, unity will grow. Let us stand up tall. I don't wanna fall like so many had to face. Where I wanna be is a continuation of the dream, the dream, the dream, the dream. I'm afraid to go outside every day. I need that fear to go away. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zari. That song was really empowering.
I second that statement.
Gianni, you're awfully silent.
Are you about to cry?
Definitely not, although that was a very, very moving performance.
If you say so.
Guys, we have a variety of options now. Now we can join the NAACP or the NCNW.
But we could still do something ourselves and start our own movement.
I have an idea. I was thinking that the groups we researched are like the Stump and...
I have an idea. I love that you two are interested in making a difference in some capacity, but I don't think the audience wants to watch us decide which route to take or about anything tree-related. I say we should have another performance.
Of course you make that choice.
But that's not a bad choice. However, I vote for a speech instead.
I agree.
I guess that can work too.
Ladies and gentlemen, we present to you our keynote speaker, a man who loves to encourage the community, Mr. Milo Kavik.
Hello, everyone. In the honor of Dr. King and the spirit of regeneration, I'd like to thank the City of Federal Way, the Mayor's Office, and all of you for being here today. I get to tell a story as an athlete that I often don't have the opportunity to tell, but again, in the spirit of regeneration, I think it's appropriate. I hope you'll hang on for the punchline of the story. And yeah, growing up, I look around here and I see different ethnicities, different nationalities, and as I grew up, I wasn't a victim of the same kind of racial discrimination and hate that some of you are faced with every single day. The kind of hate that I'm talking about has nothing to do with the color of my skin. It has nothing to do with my character, and it has nothing to do with my religion. The roots of the hate I'm talking about is hate that was compounded over centuries, all of which resulted in this bloodbath known as the Yugoslav War. For 4 years, in an east side, west side violent fashion, people, neighbors, literally neighbors, both in proximity and countries, were kidnapping, torturing, executing each other in the streets. 5 years after this war, in 2000, I made my first Olympic team. And I'll tell you, it was not easy being around people and other national teams from that war that lost brothers, lost sisters, uncles, aunts, mothers and fathers. It wasn't easy. Some of them had scars. You could see it. Some of them lost limbs. But everybody was damaged. And with these same people, we shared the Olympic Village. We shared pool space. We shared buses, right? We sat together in traffic, and sometimes sitting in traffic would last as long as an hour or more. So we did what everyone else would do. In that time, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have all these things. So what we did was we just talked to our friends, right? And while we were on the bus sitting amongst each other, you should know that we all spoke the same language. We would tell stories to each other, in our teams, but swimmers and athletes from other countries, they spoke our language. Although different in dialect, they understood. And when we would tell jokes, depending on the content and quality of the joke, other athletes, they would laugh. Maybe not out loud, but they would let out a gasp of air just to laugh, right? Because we were so passionate about the sport, we would argue within our national teams about certain things and certain aspects of the sport and certain facts. And when we didn't have it all wrong, or when we didn't have it all right, members of other national teams, they would interject and tell us their thoughts on the matter. And there we were, sitting in a bus going to and from the pool. It was uncomfortable, but just like that, every single year since then, we would share buses, hotels, lobbies, and pool space at all these international competitions. Jokes, they forced smiles. With more time, these smiles got wider. Smiles encouraged nods. As we got on those buses, we nodded to each other. These nods, with time, they became hellos. Hellos led to congratulatory remarks. As it turned out, the love of our sport brought us together on these same buses. It was these buses, when we were forced to sit together, that glimmers of civility and hope shined. It wasn't another 4 years until 2004 or 2005 that we actually started inviting each other to competitions within our respective countries. I remember in 2005, my club team in Serbia, we went to Zagreb. And again, the proximity of Belgrade and Zagreb is literally like Seattle and Portland. It was about a 3-hour drive. But we went there, had a great meet. But one night, the bus that we came on, it was set on fire. We were distraught. How are we going to get home? Because of the relationships that we built across 4 years of literally sitting in buses together, our hosts, they drove us home in their own bus. They made sure that everything was going to be okay. And in the words of MLK, he dreamed that one day we would be judged not by the color of our skin, or in my case, where my family was from, but by the content of our character. And for a future, a better future, again, in the words of Elon Musk last year, he said, for a better future, all we need is love. And if we could only just sit in a bus, and again, sitting in a bus means just getting to know each other, get together places, learn about each other. And what I loved that I saw so far was, we saw this wonderful dance, we heard that wonderful song. And if only we would spend a little bit of time just getting to know each other, this world is just going to be a better place. I want to thank all of you once again for being here today. And remember, it's love. It's love that's going to make this a better world. Just be open, get to know each other. It's a beautiful thing, and your lives are only going to be richer. Thank you.
Those are some wise and thoughtful words. Thank you, Mr. Kavik. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Guys, I really think another performance won't hurt.
You know what? It won't hurt. We have the time.
Here's our BSU advisor, Mr. Springfield.
In the program, it may say Mr. Dash. Mr. Dash couldn't make it. So as an artist, I always stay ready. So I will be filling in with a song for Mr. Dash. This song is called Young, Black, and Intelligent. It was written in the lieu of my feelings that a lot of our young black leaders were killed so early and so soon. And it seems like there's a fear of young, black, and intelligent people. So I wrote this in the lieu of that.
Look at the people around you. Similarities, differences in disguise. A premise locked in a life sentence of lies. The reason why we can't pledge allegiance. Society tells us we have nothing in common and we believe it. So we hang out with people that match exact. Our minds are song on repeat. So one track. The same lies that teaches white kids they have no culture are the same lies that teaches people of color to hate their culture. When tectonic paradigm plates shift, an earthquake of love will be the gift. Welcome to my lecture, sit down and look. Turn the page, the message is not in the book, identity shook. They say you came from slavery, far from the truth. We came from bravery. Shaka, Musa, Ramses, just to name a few. Kings with features like me and you, my sisters. I can't ignore Queen Nefertari, hair nappy as yours, of course. When they teach the course, we were beaten, slain by a violent force. No remorse, families do anything for master. Underground railroad invading our capture. The disaster, a nation misinformed, slain in streets by men in uniform. Black people from hereafter, tell them your story started in Africa. Who said culture is irrelevant? Identity the key to betterment. The most feared by the government. Who? Young, black, and intelligent. Who? Young, black, and intelligent. Who? Young, black, and intelligent. The most feared by the government. Young, black, and intelligent. This is more than a racial statement. A call to action if you wanna take it. Make it part of your genes, a daily routine. To call those you resemble kings and queens. It seems America is waiting on the next Garvey, Dr. King, or Malcolm X to impress with words of leadership. Navigate the pain, show them how to leadership. Equipped with a weapon to cease injustice, a shield to protect us from the most trusted. Me, young, black, intelligent rapper, recruit the youth, start the next Black Panthers. The answer is to educate the mighty roots. With knowledge, everything else will follow suit. So from hereafter, tell them your story started in Africa. Who said culture is irrelevant? Identity the key to betterment. The most feared by the government. Who? Young, black, and intelligent. Who? Young, black, and intelligent. Who? Young, black, and intelligent. The most feared by the government. Young, black, and intelligent. The revolution will be tweeted, Snapchatted, and Vine. Social media, the new televised. News to the wise, wool over your eyes. Tell the sheep to become well-mannered and civilized. Swallow your pride, let it slide. Ask a native what America does to savage pride. Just as sure as my skin's black, this world needs a change, and that's a fact. Martin Luther King marched, Rosa Parks sat. We didn't start from the bottom, we started from the back. This nation will rise up, a dream deferred. Racism still exists, haven't you heard? Hands up was the movement. Another brother slain in the streets, no improvement. Fighting to be included in the Constitution. We shall be the voices of a revolution. Revolution, revolution. Thank you.
But let's get back to the task at hand. Research.
There has to be at least one more act that can help shape the stump.
What is it with you in this stump? Okay, here's an idea. Because we're students, how about we look up different groups and projects that involved students?
That should have been more obvious.
Gianni, I think that's the best thing you've said all day. Let's try to find some student representatives.
There were many student organizations during the Civil Rights Movement. One of the movements was the Northern Student Movement. A group of students created this organization from the inspiration of the sit-ins and lunch counter protests led by students in the South.
They also encouraged direct action protests by sending volunteers to sit-ins in the South and organizing rent strikes in the North. The group dissolved around 1966, but their actions and accomplishments inspired people all over the United States to start their own groups.
Many groups who were inspired by the North Student Movement created Black student unions. These were BSUs in various colleges, and one of the BSUs were founded in Seattle. Seattle's African Americans grew frustrated with the constant oppression of their leadership of the civil rights movement, as the majority of the leaders were adults. There were also very few people of color that attended their college.
This frustration was brought to the surface on April 19th, 1967, as they all looked around for an organization to support each other. The solution? They formed a BSU at their campus, which happened to be the University of Washington. After they were founded, the number of people of color at the campus grew in size. Today, the university's BSU continues to lead the school with Black excellence as they stand up for equality and justice for all.
I didn't even know that there were BSUs in colleges, too.
Yeah, these colleges worked on things since the 60s and continued their work for betterment, service, and unity to this day.
As I mentioned earlier, all of these committees are like the stump of a tree.
What is with you and the tree analogy? Nobody's getting it.
If you'd let me explain, maybe I would understand.
Santorini is right, though. Have you noticed that all of these groups continued to work after the civil rights movement? A stem continues to grow from the roots of a tree.
I guess that's true.
Groups like the ones we researched continued with support for equal rights of Black people in America, even long after the movement ended.
That reminds me of an important man from our city who was very supportive, named Roger Freeman. He was a part of the Federal Way City Council from 2010 to 2012 and a representative of Washington State from 2013 until his death of October 29th, 2014 due to cancer.
Yes, the Roger Freeman Award was then made in his honor. Juniors and seniors had the opportunity to write about how they strive for betterment and how they will continue to make Federal Way, Washington State, the United States, and even the whole world a better place. One junior and one senior will receive $250.
We will now have Sofia Vasquez come and present the award.
Wow, large crowd. All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sofia Vasquez, as you heard. I'm currently a student at the University of Washington, studying education, communities, and organizations, which in short is kind of a major towards social justice and education, in hopes to be an educator myself in whatever path that may lead me to. Last year, I had the honor of receiving this award and the scholarship that comes with it. But as the plaque still stands tall in my dresser, I made sure not to forget what it represents. This award is special. It represents who Roger Freeman was and the characteristics that our community works to uphold, whether it be through large and small acts. And not everyone here is fortunate enough to have known Roger Freeman, but I will tell you this. He had a way of making you feel like you were heard and listened to and seen. And he just had a way of making you feel that, whether it be on a large scale or whether it just be on one-on-one interactions. Some of these characteristics that he represented were justice, diversity, compassion, and integrity. These characteristics belong to many leaders, such as Martin Luther King Jr. himself or Roger Freeman, but they also belong to many more. They're not limited to those leaders in history books or on plaques, as special as they are, but they also belong to leaders in our schools, homes, and just our everyday lives. It is in our resilient and courageous youth who speak up when it's not easy, especially when it's not easy, and in those willing to sit back and listen to the voices of those around us. And I'd just like to give a special acknowledgement to all the students that are here and the educators who have come out to support. It's also upheld by, like I said, the educators who work hard to ensure that their students are given a fair shot and to support us, such as some that we've seen today. These characteristics are also in our homes. And I'd like to remind everyone that they're also with our parents who have persevered through moments of injustice in the past and now. And it's also with those of us too. They've given us the voice to continue the work that is still left to be done. And the work that MLK has done and Roger Freeman has done in the past to work against that, it's still here today. They're in us. I urge everyone here today to remember these characteristics: justice, compassion, diversity, and integrity. And with our winners today, they uphold them in their own way. Today we have two winners, as explained earlier. We have a senior and a junior. And our first winner is a senior, and unfortunately he wasn't able to be here today due to work, but we still like to give him this recognition, and he still will be receiving the award. It's Moses Smith, so just a round of applause for him. And our junior today is Lillian Tran, so she could please come up. Roger Freeman's life embodied a life of unselfishness and kindness, especially when it came to the youth of our city and our region. You go this way. There you go. And Lillian is one of those that represent justice, diversity, compassion, and integrity in her own way. Now we'll just wait for her to come up. Okay. Well, can we please give a round of applause to our winners today, and thank you.
Congratulations to our two winners.
It's great to see students like us get the recognition they deserve. Speaking of students, the Federal Way School District always helps students with their education and for their future.
Honestly, we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the support of the district. The Federal Way Public School District Superintendent will be speaking to everyone about this important day and how we shall continue to improve it for everyone.
Please welcome Dr. Tammy Campbell.
Thank you. How inspiring it is to see our young people and to hear them share their voice. I just want to give the MCs, performers, another big round of applause. I want to acknowledge Mayor Farrell, City Council, the Diversity Commission, as well as our school board, and I thank you for recognizing them. There's a board member who's here, though, and I want to acknowledge Trudy Davis. She's also here with Lakeisha and Jeffrey, so thank you, Trudy, for being here today. Are there any educators in the room? If you're an educator, shout out. Just shout out, educators. I want to acknowledge your efforts because every single day you're giving parts of yourself so that our future is in a much better shape. And we've got some incredible educators in Federal Way Public Schools where we employ over 3,000 folks who come here every single day during our school year, giving everything they have to our young people. Thank you, educators. Today, as we celebrate Martin Luther King's birthday, I find myself thinking about leadership and what it means to be the type of leader who creates a world, a community, a place in which Dr. King's dream is tangible, approaching, on the cusp. This leadership requires us to know who we are. Because as Dr. King once said, we're not makers of history, we are made by history. You must know from whence you come to truly go where you need to be. You see, I come from the segregated South in Louisiana. I come from a community where all my teachers looked like me They were serious about our education and even more serious about our success. I come from oxtails, collard greens, peach cobbler, and sweet tea. I come from a community plagued by violence, redlining, pain, tears, laughter, discrimination, wounds. I come from strong, resilient, protective, and outspoken women. I come from a community that believed education was the way up and out. I come from Nigeria, Britain, and Benin, Togo by way of Louisiana. Where do you come from? And now I'm going to make you a little bit uncomfortable. I want you to turn to a neighbor and in a sentence, tell them where you come from. Turn to a neighbor and just in a sentence like I did, where do you come from? Okay. In doing that, we're a whole lot more connected than you were when you walked in this room. Knowing who you are and from whence you come is essential, because where you come from has a strong influence on where you are today, how you lead, and what you value. Reflect on your experiences and recognize that all of your experiences may not lead to your best actions or your better selves. Think for a moment of those experiences that made you feel more distant from a group of people, an individual, that produced fear, doubt, superiority, or suspicion of others. They may reinforce bias, prejudice, or simply inaction. These experiences plant the seed of certainty about others without you ever getting to know them. They fundamentally interfere with the conditions of connectedness in Dr. King's dream. Your experiences shape your values drive your actions, and your choices reveal your values. If you say you value inclusion and equity, it will be obvious in your actions. I value courage, authenticity, equity, justice, hope. These values drive everything I do as a leader who works daily to create a world that is consistent with Dr. King's dream. I am not perfect, far from it, but I work very hard to be an agent for positive change because of my history. For every Tammy, there are dozens who didn't make it out of that town. I know what's at stake. Dr. King said it best, never be afraid to do what is right, especially if the well-being of a person is at stake. Society's punishments are small compared to the wounds we inflict on our soul when we look the other way. So today, on this day, as we're gathered here, I'd like to ask you to reflect on the following. How are you contributing to a world? And I want you to listen to these questions. How are you contributing to a world in which women are elevated to positions of leadership in your workplace? How are you making it so that immigrants and people of color are not being characterized in stereotypical ways that render them not as smart, not as talented, not as capable, not as human? What are you doing so that our community doesn't use words like them, those, they, that provide distance and objectivity and an ease to harm people? How are you making sure we don't just show up at events like today, but where MLK Day is your everyday? What are you doing to ensure that our gay brothers and sisters are not on the receiving end of hate and violence? How are you working to unmask the new, quiet, stealthy racism that has replaced its more obvious form, where its recipients are no less harmed, but are often not believed? What are you doing to ensure our transgendered scholars are not treated in a manner that isolates them and wounds their soul? How are you making sure that wealth, power, and voice no longer reside with a small few, but with the often marginalized members of the larger whole? Finally, how are you ensuring that challenges are opportunities to construct new solutions and to build bridges to better outcomes? It doesn't mean war. It simply means let's meet together in the field between right and wrong and figure it out. We must continue to build a new normal that is inclusive, multicolored, multilingual, and multi-perspective. We have not done so yet, but we must be open to new ways of being, according to Dr. King. The soft-minded man always fears change. He feels security in the status quo, and he has an almost morbid fear of the new. For him, the greatest pain is the pain of a new idea. Finally, be reminded by Dr. King's words, people fail to get along because they fear each other. They fear each other because they don't know each other. They don't know each other because they have not communicated with each other. You don't know someone based on what someone has told you about them, what you've read about them, what you've seen on TV, or what you've heard about them. We must get off of our phones, our computers, social media, and our small echo chambers reinforcing dogma. We must not fall prey to the notion that we know the measure of a woman or man from afar. Come close, lean in, talk face to face, listen, and, as you said, Milo, love. This is the only way we'll build a world truly worthy of our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell.
You guys, please don't be mad at me, but I do think that we should have just one more performance, a big showstopper. Everyone we've had here today has expressed themselves in an amazing way, and you know I love performances.
Let's do it. Geneva, what do you think?
I don't see why not.
You might have seen them at various events, and now they're here for our MLK Day of celebration. We present to you the Washington Diamonds.
I think it's time to stand.
Weren't they cool? Woo! Yes, that was exhilarating.
Before we end the event, we have one more speaker with us today. She is a student at Thomas Jefferson High School and is in speech and debate, who would like to share her words with everyone today. Please welcome Amy O.
Let me tell you about my founding fathers. Born of struggle and bred into strife, crowned with curls and bathed in melanin, named Rosa and Malcolm, Diane and Martin, healers of a world that loved them not. Seekers of that more perfect union, shakers of all self-evident truths, the deprived of all unalienable rights, moved to action by violence and destitution. Let me tell you about my declaration, claiming independence from racial inequity, penned not in prosperity but in prison, birthed of not only anger but necessity, paid for with pools of innocent blood. Saved for a future not yet near, where no stinging darts nor disease remain, where the cup of tolerance ever overflows, and injustice is never triumphant. Let me tell you about my revolution, fought without guns and swords, spurred by a cause neither light nor transient, spurred by an evil insufferably great, driven by sit-ins, marches, and boycotts. Let me tell you about our reality. Children caged by the border, pride murals stained with hatred, victims smothered with silence, and we, the people, stayed with hesitation. We, the people, forsaking their legacy. We, the people, renouncing our power. We, the people, forgetting that freedom means nothing if not everyone has it. Let me tell you about my founding fathers. They are old and they are dead, but they are not relics of the past. They are examples for the future. They are a path for us to follow. Just as they marched, we too must march. Just as they fought, we too must fight. They are equality incarnate, and we must be their legacy.
Good job, Amy. Thank you, Amy. That was a very meaningful and great way to wrap up the event. Everyone here today made me realize that we can all come together and do something great with all of our talents and mindsets combined. I don't know why I was so negative before, but we can do something to make the world a better place.
2020 might not be so bad after all, right, Gianni?
But we're not quite done yet. I have an idea for a movement we can do. I like to call it regeneration.
What's regeneration?
That's a good idea. We honored what people did during the civil rights movement by renewing some of their tactics with a new generation, the audience.
We also educated ourselves and others about the movement and those who are affected. I also think we created a path to make a change and plan a movement that everyone can participate in.
My goodness, I get it. It's a play on words. Regeneration as in renewal, and regeneration as in a new generation of activists.
Shh, it doesn't matter. Anyways, do you know what represents renewal? Trees!
Is this what you were talking about the entire time?
Clever, Santorini. Let's recap the audience so they are reminded about this whole tree thing.
Cue the PowerPoint. I I started off by saying that MLK is like the roots of a tree. MLK was a courageous and transformational man during the American Civil Rights Movement. He created change by empowering the next generation of activists to continue what he started after his death. Then there's the stump. Groups like the ones we researched, the NAACP and the NCNW, and student representatives continued the advocacy for equal rights of Black people in America, even long after the movement ended. As for us, we are the branches. We have collected and internalized the nutrients that have been passed up by the activist groups and Dr. King. Today, we have reached out and enriched you all in the audience with our newfound knowledge and hopefully some innovation. And we're the new social activists. Now, we can blossom into the fruit.
You are all ripe for plucking. It's your turn to go plant your seeds of wisdom in action and allow another tree to grow. Regeneration starts with us. Regeneration starts with you. That's what Dr. King would have wanted, so let's make him proud.
Who knew that regeneration in the tree analogy was just so
great? I know, thank you. Hopefully you, the audience, will be part of this regeneration movement and help us continue the dream.
I think that we all learned something today, and let's go make regeneration happen.
And this concludes our 2020 MLK event.
It is your turn to go plant your seeds of wisdom in action and allow another tree to grow.
We appreciate you all taking your time to come learn with us today.
Now let's bring out Mr. Baruso and Zari for some final acknowledgments.
Can we just get a round of applause for those MCs? It's a really hard job to do, and I'm super proud of them. First off, hi, if you don't remember me, I'm Zari. I'm the president of BSU, and I'm very thankful to have this opportunity today to be here and have this event. First off, I wanted to thank the Diversity Commission for helping out with this event. They were a huge help in providing the space and just having that communication with us, so thanks to them. Thank you to the school district who just are always supporting us and supporting the students. And then also the council members from the city council, thank you for being here and just providing everything for our community. And then I wanted to thank the members of BSU that also made this event possible, and a special shout out to Gianni White. She's back there. She was one of the MCs, but she really helped a lot of the things to happen. And that's it for my acknowledgments. So thank you again.
Want to bring the rest of the BSU up for me?
You guys want to come out?
Yeah. So this is, again, this is a lot of work, and you can see students worked on this from GJ. A lot of this was the BSU. Thank you, Jamarcus Springfield, and thank you really to Azari. She is the president. We kind of guide them, we give them the reins, but I also like to give Azari a present from us. So I hope that everyone came today, and you heard the speakers, you saw the performances. The inspiration is there. Like I said, we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot to accomplish. The comment I got yesterday proves that. So when you leave here today, spread the word. Like I said, be the example. Please be the example. And also, let's not forget Dr. King's legacy of what we are here for today. So, thank you. Marcus.
Thank you all for coming out. I want to give a couple more thank you. Thank you to Mayor Farrell for coming and being here with us. Thank you to Dr. Tammy Campbell for those great words. Thank you to our TJHS choir. Miss Chelsea Clifton is a first-year choir director at our school, and she rearranged her entire curriculum in order to make sure that that song was ready to go for the program today. Thank you, like we said, especially to Zari. Zari was the engine behind a lot of what you saw today. And special thank you to Jerry Lynn Clark. She made sure that everything ran smoothly, ran it with the iron fist, and made sure that everything today was beautiful. If you all have any questions for BSU or any of the performers, we'll be out in the lobby. Thank you all for coming. Drive safe. Go be the example. Thank you.